Welcome everyone, my name is Alex Warren. This is Learn by Doing. Today, we're learning more about Python. Let's get started. For this problem, we're continuing what we learned from the previous video, which is involving variable types of integers and strings. We're also going to be throwing in a couple new concepts that we haven't discussed so far, one being operators and how you can use them, and the other being if conditions, ways to evaluate the values of those variables and do specific things based on whether they meet those conditions or not. Before we do that, just like with any problem, let's first understand what the problem is. What are we being asked to do? Here, we're being given an integer as the input, which is stored in the variable number, and we're asked to return a string, which can be either the value of even as text or odd, based on whether the number here is even or odd. So logically pretty straightforward. The question is, how do we get Python to do and evaluate that for us? Before we completely implement that, let's first discuss the concept of operators. So, as far as numbers and integers are concerned, there are a few operators involved in performing certain mathematical equations. There's addition, so you can add a number to something. You can subtract, of course. You can multiply. You can divide. And there is another operator that is not as well known, but it's very important to this problem, which is known as the modulo operator, which is represented by the percent sign. We'll just stick with that one for now. What this operation is doing is it's saying, take number, divide it by 2, give me the remainder, right? So that's essentially, it's the remainder from any kind of division. If you divide the left number by the right number, return whatever the remainder is. And that's important because we need to ask ourselves, okay, what is an even number? Well, in this case, in this kind of operation, it's any number that if you divide it by 2, the remainder is 0. That's an important concept to know going forward. And that's really, when it comes to programming, how you evaluate even and odd numbers. Now, let's take this and move on to if conditions. So an if condition looks like if followed by whatever condition you're checking. It would read like if number is even, do this, right? That's essentially the functionality of what we're looking at. Now, the way to actually write that, the syntax, in other words, we need to use the modulo operator to evaluate whether the number we are provided in this variable is even or not. So let's put that operation we had from before. So we want to check if this statement is equal to 0. And when we're using conditions, we use what are called Boolean operators. And the one we'll be using for this is equal to. Notice it's two equal signs next to each other, and not a single one, which is used for assigning values to variables. So all this if statement is saying is, if the remainder of number divided by 2 is equal to 0, then do something inside. What do we want it to do? Well, we'd like it to return the string even. And as you're writing your solution for any of these problems, a good way to ensure that you're correct before you even test a submission is just go through it logically. You can even look at the sample arguments being provided down here. Think about it. All right, if I pass a 2, okay, let's say number is 2, and sort of walk through it in your head. If 2 divided by 2 has a remainder of 0, which it does, it'll go in here and return even. Okay, that's what it should do. That sounds like it works. And then, okay, let's do one more that's odd. 1, okay, number is equal to 1. If 1 divided by 2 has a remainder of 0, it doesn't. 1 divided by 2 has a remainder of 1. So it'll skip this. It won't even go inside this if statement. It'll go outside. Well, what if it goes outside, meaning that it's odd? What do we want it to do at that point? Well, at that point, we'd want it to return odd. That being said, this is pretty much our solution. Let's go ahead and test it. So all sample tests came back green, which is a great start. Let's go ahead and do the full attempt. All still green. Submit for points. The nice thing about the CodeWars platform is that after you do submit a successful solution, not only do you get points, but you get to see what other solutions have been submitted by other users. And it's sorted by the most highly voted, right? So the first one up here has been upvoted for best practices nearly 2,000 times, for clever nearly 2,000 times. On one side, it does give you the benefit of seeing alternative solutions, makes you think of better ways to have solved the problem. And I've definitely learned a lot by looking at solutions after I've submitted them, realizing, oh, hey, wow, there was actually an easier way I could have done that. On the other side, where it isn't so great, is that in not just Code Wars, but any practice problem platform, a lot of effort is made by the people who participate on it to create a solution in the fewest lines possible, which from a professional software engineering standpoint is not the priority. You do not always want to have the fewest lines. You definitely don't want more lines than you need, but because software engineering is very much a team effort, you want to make sure that code you're writing is as easy to read as possible, not only for other people, but even yourself. I mean, several times I've written code and then not looked at it for a while because I've moved on to work on other things, and then come back to my own code over a year later, and if I hadn't written it in a way that was easy to read, it would be that much more harder to understand, even though I wrote it myself. So that's where I fight against that a little bit when I'm putting in my own solutions. I don't try to put it in fewer lines if I really don't need to. But hey, there's no rules necessarily on the platform. You don't have points taken away, whether it is longer or not, as long as it provides a successful solution. So if there is a game you do want to play yourself, feel free. It's kind of a puzzle if you think about it. There's nothing wrong with that. That being said, that's it for this problem. And if you like the video, if you learned something new, please hit the like button. If you want to be made aware of the next video that comes out, please subscribe to my channel, because I'll be continuing to make more of these, and we're going to get more and more into the workings of Python all the way through all the foundational knowledge. By the end of the series, you will have covered all of the basic concepts of Python to the point that you can create your own Python projects on your own. If you have any suggestions or questions even, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and if there's enough attention on a particular topic or a frequently asked question, I'll definitely make a separate video on that. Thanks for solving this problem with me. Look forward to seeing you guys next time.